Aloha, welcome. I'm Tracy with Retired Not Expired Group from Facebook, and we thank you for coming by and taking a look at our video today. So this is going to be our second video in a group of probably 3 or 4 different videos that we have in a playlist that you can select down below. Playlist, and it'll show all the videos in there. Last week we did our video based on taking an inventory of what electrical items that you'll need to power off of a battery. And so today we're going to take a look at batteries in general. And a caveat, disclaimer, whatever word you want to use. We're not electricians here. We're not telling you or advising you how to install something. We're just giving you a very, very basic introduction to terminology and things that are used in this and ways to do things. But as far as actual installation, always recommend, if it's within your budget, definitely have a professional do the installation for you. That always works out well. So batteries, let's get into that. You're going to hear some names tossed around. And again, we're going to keep this very, very simple. There are 2 types of batteries out there that you will see in van life and nomad life. That would be lead acid and lithium. Lead acid has been around a long time. It's the same basic composition that your car batteries are in. They're very heavy. They do give off a gas. Hydrogen gas, not a lot. It's not, I wouldn't say it's a deadly gas that it gives off, but it does give off gas. So it's not necessarily something that I would like to have like underneath my bed or something, but it won't kill you in most cases. But you have steel lead acid, and then you have lithium. The differences between them: lead acid batteries, number one, they're heavy because they're lead. They're inexpensive compared to lithiums to a certain extent. Now, batteries for this purpose are sold in what are called amp hours, and they're typically sold in 100 amp hour units. And as we know from our previous video, amps times volts equals watts, and we determine how many watts you would need for your system. And because we're going to assume that you're using a 12-volt system, which is very, very typical for a car, a 100 amp hour battery will hold 1200 watts of power. That's not 1200 watts per hour, that's just 1200 watts period. So once you've used up a total of 1200 watts, that battery is going to be depleted, it will need to be recharged. So lead acid batteries, again, groups of 100 amp hours. However, keeping in mind that with lead acid batteries, they are only to be used on the top 50%, meaning that once you get down to 50%, you don't want to run that battery anymore without charging it back up, because it will damage the battery. So when you buy a 100 amp hour battery or a 1200 watt capacity battery, you're only getting half of it. You're only getting 50 amp hours, 600 watts. Therefore, to get a true 100 amp hours or a true 1200 watts, you have to buy 2 lead acid batteries or one 200 amp hour battery to cover for that. Now, the advantage of lead acid batteries is that they're relatively inexpensive. They are, for a 100 amp hour battery, now they're running anywhere from $200 to $300 for good quality 100 amp hour sealed lead acid batteries. Lithium batteries, on the other hand, have some advantages over the lead acid batteries. The advantage of lithium, which is a newer technology, the advantages of lithium are that, number one, you can use almost all of the full rated capacity for it. You don't want to take them down below 10% very often, but you could every once in a while without any real harmful effects. So a 100 amp hour battery is actually a 100 amp hour battery, not 50%. The other advantage of lithium is that they have, there's a thing called charge cycles, which is a charge cycle, kind of like with your cell phone. You know, when your battery gets brought down to a certain percentage, we usually say around 50 to 60%, and you charge it back up, that's considered one charge cycle. Lead acid batteries typically have about 200 to 500 charge cycles in them before they really start being degraded. Lithium batteries, on the other hand, have 2,000 to 5,000 charge cycles. So you're off the bat, you're getting about 10 times as much usage out of them. as you would a sealed lead acid, even though they're about twice the price. So a 100 amp hour lithium battery is going to run you anywhere from about $400 to $500. And then 200 amp hours are anywhere from $750 to $1,000. 300 amp hours are usually $1,200 to $1,500, and I haven't seen anything above 300. Without getting too technical, you can take batteries and multiple batteries and wire them together. Well, that's a separate thing. But we're just going to keep this discussion very simple. So 100, 200, 300 amp hours. Now, the amount of power that you are going to want to use with your batteries, the amount of power you're going to need, is kind of going to depend on your lifestyle. Some folks, you don't use a lot of power, you don't have heavy power needs, and maybe you're in an area such as SoCal, Arizona, Nevada, New Mexico, where you get a lot of sun, and maybe you're using solar to charge those batteries, and so having a whole big array of batteries out there for you is not really necessary. You don't need it, and that's fine, nothing wrong with that at all. But I'm hearing and seeing on other groups and forums and things like that it's really been kind of the opposite, and that is that folks don't know how much battery they need. Number one, because they haven't taken the inventory, but also because they don't really understand all this terminology and stuff that's being tossed around. So where you are at is going to be important. And again, that's why I say it's a lifestyle situation, because if you're in an area that has a lot of sun, again, and you're using solar, you're going to be in pretty good shape. However, during the winter months, if you're not in an area that has a lot of sun, you're going to struggle. If you're using solar to charge your batteries, you're going to struggle to get those batteries charged up in time before they're depleted. Let's say that an average person is using around 1,500 watts a day of power. If you have a 1,200 watt battery, a 100 amp hour battery, that 1,500 watts isn't going to last you the whole day. You only got 1,200, so you're going to have to recharge that battery before the end of the day. So a lot of folks will buy additional battery capacity, which makes perfect sense. How much battery capacity is going to depend on where you're at a lot of the time. It's going to depend on your comfort with having the backup reserve energy available. Some folks like to have 3, 4, 5 days worth of backup energy just in case, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Other folks like to live a little closer to the edge. Again, another thing that plays into this is budget, of course. Not everybody has unlimited amounts of money to do this stuff, and you don't need to have unlimited amounts of money to run these things. You can do it on a relatively low budget. Certainly no reason why you cannot get a really decent battery and solar setup for less than $1,000. You can certainly do that. Not at all unusual. So, and in the future of videos, we're going to go over charging methods. We're going to go over generators and DC to DC chargers and AC to DC chargers, and then we'll go over the boxes, the Blue Eddy, and boxes like that are kind of an all-in-one system. We'll go over that in future videos, but for right now, again, going back to the batteries, so you have those two types of batteries, and again, it's going to depend on your individual goals as to which way you want to go, whether you want to go lithium or you want to go with the sealed lead acid. Ultimately, when you take a look at the charge cycles and the price of the batteries themselves, in the end, lithium are much, much, much cheaper. And if you take a look at it, say a 5 to 10 year cycle, much cheaper doing lithium, much cheaper. And another, I guess, a misnomer, another thing that people don't quite understand is that you are not running your devices off of solar. The solar is there to charge your batteries. You're running your devices off the battery. So the most important thing to you is going to be having enough battery power to run those devices. A lot of folks, I've talked with a lot of folks, and they go, well, I'm running my thing off solar. Well, no, you're not. You're just charging your batteries off solar. So kind of keep that thing in mind. So again, the goal of this video was just to give you some information to inform you, kind of simplify things a little bit. You can leave comments down below. We're very happy to answer your questions here. You can also contact us at retirednotexpiredgroup@gmail.com. We'll have that listed below. Subscribe to our videos. We're not here to make any money off them. We're here to help folks, but if you subscribe to our videos, you'll get a notification of when the next video gets posted. We're going to be doing all kinds of different things. We're going to be doing some cooking videos. We've got one of our moderators here is a wonderful, wonderful vegan cook, and she can make things, and they're incredible. You would never know they're vegan. And look at this. This is not the face of a vegan, and still, I love her stuff. It's great. So that we'll have some just public interest things and videos just to teach people on topics that they have a lot of questions on. It's hard to get a straight answer sometimes from other forums where you've got thousands and thousands of members, and sometimes you'll get different answers from different people. But stick with us here again for the simple, basic answers to things. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Again, Tracy with Retired Not Expired Group on Facebook and on YouTube here. Aloha. Have a great day. Thanks for coming by.